Well, once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar that talks about how you can accelerate your file transfers to and from the cloud using our FileCatalyst products. Before we jump into the webinar, a couple of housekeeping things. There is a questions panel on the GoToWebinar client application that you have installed. Feel free to ask any questions you have during the webinar. I will try and answer them if it's relevant to the point I'm talking on, or we can answer any questions towards the end of the webinar. Other than that, I guess we'll get started. So my name is Elton Carneiro, and I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Cloud Services here at FileCatalyst. I'm responsible for developing our partnerships with various ISVs, as well as the different cloud solutions licensing platforms that we have on the cloud. So FileCatalyst on the cloud. Today's webinar is going to talk about the different licensing options for cloud as well as on-premise. We'll go through our different cloud marketplace listings. We'll talk about our latest release of a new license model, which is our per gigabyte license, as well as we'll cover different object storage support that we have. This webinar is going to be mostly a demo of me walking through how to get running on the cloud. So not a whole lot of slides for that. Cool. So in terms of licensing, we have a number of different licensing options. The BYOL, also known as Bring Your Own License. This is a perpetual license that you can acquire from any of our sales team, personnel. They can provide you a license that you can use to run on any cloud provider that you wish. The idea is that you spin up a virtual machine or an image on that cloud of your choice. You install the FileCatalyst software if it's not part of the marketplace already, and then you basically install your perpetual license and you're off to the races. In terms of cloud marketplace listings, we're currently listed on AWS, so that's Amazon Web Services, and Azure. You can take a look at the links, and I'll show you the links based on the URL filecatalyst.com/cloud solutions. These listings are both available in the Bring Your Own License as well as per hour billing. The idea is that with per hour billing is you spin up a VM that has FileCatalyst prepackaged for you. It's available, it's all pre-configured and ready to go. The only idea is that you connect to it using our remote admin tool, create a user account, and now you can start transferring files. You're only paying for how many hours of compute you're running the server. So the idea is that short-term projects, you spin it up, use it, shut it down. You're only paying for what you use. The next license is our FileCatalyst per gigabyte license, and this again is similar to the per hour, but in this case we're paying only for the amount of gigs transferred. So you can have this license running throughout the entire year, but you're only paying when you transfer files. And again, the URL is filecatalyst.com/consumption-billing. And again, I'll show you this page. You can go through this page to sign up, and the system will send you instructions on how to download the software as well as the license key. And then we'll talk about object storage support. So in terms of object storage, there's a number of different object storages that we support. Most of these are public cloud. We do support private cloud, but the focus on this webinar is public cloud. So here's a list in alphabetical order. So starting with Amazon. So we can natively read and write into Amazon S3. We do support Azure Blob Storage. We support Backblaze B2. Google Cloud Storage, OpenStack's Swift, Oracle Cloud Storage, and Wasabi. So any of these platforms, we can, using the FileCatalyst technology, you can accelerate your file transfers into their storage platform. Alrighty, demo time. So let's begin. A bit of a Mac issue here. There we go. So let's begin with our FileCatalyst.com page. On our FileCatalyst, we have our cloud solutions. So the idea is that you come to this page, click on our cloud solutions, and you'll get an understanding of all the different providers we're available on, and as well as we have links on individual pages to those locations. So first things first, let's start with Amazon. So click on the Learn More. We go to the Amazon page. The Amazon page will talk about a whole different, different things in terms of, what we do, or, in terms with Amazon, what speeds we can go up to, what features we offer, how we license the technology on Amazon, as well as our S3 integration. But we also have a number of different, resources at the bottom here that talks about, performance and so on. So these are blogs that we've written based on, our experience with Amazon. So first things first, let's go with our per hour. So when you click on the per hour listing, you'll be taken to our FileCatalyst Direct server page. On this page, you have the product overview, you have your pricing, so you can see how much it's going to cost you per hour, as well as your EC2 fees, and then what's going to cost you in total. This pricing is based on the region you select. So in this case, we're looking at North Virginia. So based on that, these are the pricing we recommend. The instance size determines how fast, in terms of transfer speeds, what's the maximum bandwidth, the license will support. Because the instance sizes from Amazon limit you in terms of network capabilities, the FileCatalyst license ties into that same limitations from the networking side on Amazon. So I believe the large instance will give you about anywhere from 300 to 400 megabits, and the 16XL will give you up to 5 gigabits per second. So based on what bandwidth speeds you're looking to achieve, I would recommend you can either contact us from more details, or you can go start with from 200 to 300, 400 megabits with large based on how you tune it and based on what transfers you're doing, all the way to 5 gigabits per second. So let's go and subscribe. So to subscribe, you continue to subscribe. It'll ask you to log in. So if you don't have an account, you can create an account. I already have an account here, so I'll just log in with my account. And you basically now subscribe to the product. Then you can go to continue to configuration. So to continue to configuration, this page will allow you to choose what what version you want. Since you only have we have two versions, but you want to select the latest version. There's only one option for an AMI, so you select that, and then the region. So where do we want to deploy our license? So where do we want to deploy our actual FileCatalyst server? So we'll select North Virginia, and then we go to launch. So launch action, we want to launch to EC2, launch from website, or copy. So let's choose launch to EC2. Click on launch. Now we'll be taken to the EC2 management console, and through the management console now we can select what instance size we wish to select. So let's go with large. Again, next configure instance details. So the instance details allow you to specify what VPC you wish to use. So let's go and select a VPC here. Let's go and enable access from the public. This is really important. Unless you want to deploy within a VPC, you don't have to enable this. But if you want to connect to your VM from external networks, you need to enable the public IP unless you have VPN to to that VPC. You don't have to worry about placement group unless you're doing auto scaling. IAM roles, you don't have to worry about that. Shutdown behavior, stop is fine. Otherwise, you can choose terminate. Choosing stop versus terminate really determines if you wish to reuse this VM in the future. Since it's a per hour instance, the idea is that you can spin it up, use it. When you're done using it, stop it. You're not paying for it the next time you need to use it. Spin it up again. Versus if you hit terminate, the entire instance will be deleted. All right, next, storage. You can specify what your local disk size should be. For us, 20 gigs is plenty, but if you wish to store files locally, you may wish to update this to a size that you wish to use. Tags, if you want to add your tags to the system, we don't care about that. So the actual AMI within Amazon comes with a preset of port and rules that we determine are needed for FileCatalyst. You can add rules. I wouldn't suggest removing any rules unless you want to limit specific functionality. Like for example, if you don't wish for anyone to use the HTTP server within FileCatalyst, you can disable this rule. But any of the other ports, I would suggest to leave them open. So again, you can create a new group, give it a name. So let's go ahead and give us a name, AWS per hour webinar. just so we know it. And go to review and launch. All right, so over here, and so this is basically a review of the entire page. There is a page whereby it'll ask me what key I wish to use. So let's see if it prompts me next. Otherwise, click launch and assign a key paired to your instance to complete the launch process. So let's go and click launch. I want to select an existing key which I have in my system. Otherwise, you can create a new key if you wish. Hit acknowledge and then launch the instance. So what happens now, the instance is launching. So what we can do in the meantime, while this instance is launching, we can go back to our AWS page, and I'll show you our support document that walks you through the same process that we just did. So if you click on FileCatalyst Support here, you'll be taken to our support page. If you type in AWS, you have an article here that talks about how to set up FileCatalyst Direct on AWS. Deploying a FileCatalyst server on Amazon Marketplace. So this goes through the whole setup I just did. Talks about selecting how you want to launch it, the version, what region you want to launch it on, the instance size, and so on. So we've done all this process up till I guess step number 9. Right. So let's go back, see if our instance is launched already here. All right, it's launched. We now have an IP address. So let's connect to this server via SSH. So I'll launch my terminal window here. Let's close these. Let's open up a new window. All right. Let me get my IP address here if I haven't copied it. Let's go back here. So let me go to where my Amazon SSH keys are. And then now I can SSH using my key. And then the user is ec2-user at the IP address. So this is the default user account that comes with the actual operating system that we've selected. So when you connect in, you'll get prompted to accept the key, hit yes, and now you're into the actual FileCatalyst system. If you wish to see if it's running, I would suggest switching to root. So sudo-i, switch to root, and then you can run service fc server status, and you can tell us if FileCatalyst Direct server is running. You don't really need to go through this whole process, but the key thing is just showing you how you can connect to it. So the next step is connecting it so you can actually see the user interface, be able to create users, change any configs you wish to change, and so on. So for that, we'll go to our download page, and we'll look for our server remote administration. So based on the operating system you are, select the version for that operating system. Once it downloads, you can go ahead and install it. So we can go through the installation process here. Just click next, continue, agree, continue, install. It'll ask you for a password. All right, installation is successful. Yeah, move to trash. We don't need it again. So let's go ahead and launch it. Server admin. So we launch it. So the FileCatalyst Server admin starts up. Now we can go and hit manage. And the idea is that we wish to add a new site, or we can modify this site. So let's go give it a site name, AWS FileCatalyst per hour. Specify the IP, hit close. Now we have it in our listing. And the username is admin, and the password is move files fast, exclamation mark. This password is available in the README file. So if we exit from here and do an ls, there's a readme.txt. If we cat on the README, it sort of explains this whole process, and we provide the password to you in the documentation. We also give you steps to change the password, and again, I highly recommend that you do change the password. This is our default password, which means that anyone who has access to this AMI will know the password, which means that someone's going to want to sort of scan the network to see what other IPs have port 12400 running and attempt to connect. They'll be able to get into your server. So we highly recommend you change the password. So let's go ahead and hit login. So this will now connect to the FileCatalyst server running on AWS using my remote administration client. So it's receiving the configuration files. So now we're in. We can see our default user and so on and so forth. The first thing you'll have to do, because we're running on AWS, it is behind a NAT device. You need to enable IP Masquerade. So when you enable IP Masquerade, you have to specify the public IP of the Amazon instance. So in this case, it's the same IP specified to log in. So you enter the IP over there. If you wish to use a DNS to connect to using the remote admin, we don't support DNS entries over here. It has to be an IP, so you'd have to use the IP over here. Hit apply. Let the configuration restart, and that's good. If you want to verify running and how much bandwidth you have, you can see the large instance has will support up to 500 megabits per 500 megabits per second, and you have it telling you it's a power instance license, and you have all the features, all the client applications can connect to it, and so on. So we have a user account. The user over here has a default password of PWD. So now we can, and it's mapped to the OPT UTXOF server data user directory. So if we go into this folder, sudo switch to root cd /opt UTXOF server data user, files in there. But what we can do, you can either use one of our client applications, or we have the handy feature within the server admin if you wish to upload files to that location directly. We have the connect link here. So you can click on the connect link. It will connect to the server. I can then go into a location where I have files here. Let's select my desktop. I have this number 2 file. I can right click and upload the file. The file upload starts. You can see it go. It'll ramp up, and within seconds it will complete. So the file process happens, and you can see it's done. The file's over there. If I go back to my terminal window, I can do ls-ll again, and now I'll see my number 2 file that I just uploaded. Cool. Now, the same process works if you go back to again our main cloud page. If you choose the bring your own license, it's pretty much the same process with bring your own license. The only difference is that you have to once you launch the instance, you have to connect to to the server using SSH. You then have to go into the FileCatalyst folder on the OPT UTXOF server. The idea is that you can either make sure the service is not running. So you can do service fc server status to see if it's running again, and if it is running, you want to call stop. Once you call stop, you can launch the FileCatalyst server using, let me just make sure. Yeah, you can launch a FileCatalyst server using fc_server_console. And when you do this, the system will print out a request string. You take this request string and you send it to one of your sales reps, and they'll be able to provide you a license. Once you receive the license, all you have to do is edit the config file, and you specify the license at the top right there. Hit save, and you now and install the FileCatalyst server, and you'll be good in terms of having a licensed FileCatalyst server with a bring your own license. I'll come back to this in a few minutes, because the other option is using the BYOL. You do have the option to use consumption-based license as well, so per gigabyte. So maybe let's jump to that and then come back to this. So for our consumption-based licensing, the idea is that you can go to a cloud page. You have the option of per gigabyte. You can click on per gigabyte, and it takes you to our sign up page to get a per gigabyte license. With the per gigabyte, as I mentioned, you get, as part of the evaluation, we give you the first 50 gigs for free, and up to 7 days. So you can use the license without any charges for 7 days or up to 50 gigs. Then the pricing starts at about 35 cents a gigs, and it scales based on this table over here. If you want to calculate how much it's going to cost you, again, these are fees on a monthly basis. So let's say if you're transferring, I don't know, let's say 5 terabytes a month. So transfer 5 terabytes a month, it's going to cost you $1,180, and that's it. So you don't have to worry about paying for anything else. You just pay to transfer your 5 terabytes, and you're done. There is no monthly fees unless you wish to, add on the support plans. We offer support at different plans here. Based on the plan, you get different level of support service. So you can add on that, and that is charged monthly. So once you sign up at the bottom, so you enter your first name, last name, email address, basically your details, enter your credit card, your billing address, hit place your order, and you'll get basically an email from the system that gives you instructions how to download FileCatalyst, any installation guides, as well as the license key that you'll be using. So that's basically the same license. You can then go back to your BYOL instance on AWS and use it to license your FileCatalyst server. Cool. So that's our AWS. Let's run through the same process with Azure. So let's go back again. Since we're not using it anymore, I can actions. Let's go to image state and stop this, so we're not getting charged anymore. And as soon as I stop it, the system gets shut down. FileCatalyst server will be stopped running in a few seconds. Let me just close down some of these windows. That's fine. So this is stopping, and now let's go to our Azure. So the same process can be run on Azure. On the Azure Marketplace, we have again per hour, as well as bring your own license. If you go to the per hour, it's the same idea whereby you can you get a brief description, but you can go and launch it within your Azure portal. So let's go and hit continue here. Do you know what? Let's do the BYOL for this one. Let's cancel out of this. Cancel. Close this page down. Let's go into here. Let's go to the bring your own license version. So BYOL, get it now. Continue. Choose create. Give it basic settings. So let's call this Azure Webinar Demo. Choose an SSD username. You can give it any user. I'm going to give it, let's call this user Ubuntu. And now I'll need my SSH key for this user. So let me just go back to my terminal and let me choose cat Azure. Nope, cat Azure.pub. I can copy my SSH key in here, and then we want to use an existing resource group. I have one under my name, so we don't have to create a new one. The location is US East. You can choose any location from the list. I'm just going to leave it as East US 2. It's going to ask me what operating system. Much like Amazon, Azure has the same idea whereby the network speed and the bandwidth that the actual VM supports is based on how many CPUs, how much RAM you have. So the idea is that a DS1 V2 will give you, I think, so up to, again, 500 megabits per second. A DS2 V2 will give you up to a gigabit, and so on and so forth. So let's select a DS2 V2. Let's go bigger this time. It will go and specify, again, much like Amazon. The idea is that we have the security groups predefined for you and so on, so you don't have to worry about changing any of these settings if you don't wish to. One thing I like about Azure, it has the auto shutdown. So if you're doing testing and you don't want the system to sort of run indefinitely, you can specify when it should auto shut down itself based on your location. So in case you forget about it, you know it's only going to run till this time and then shut itself down. So let's go and add that in, and that's it. Hit OK. So this will give you a summary, and go to the summary, you accept the terms of use, and choose create. So once this happens, it'll submit to the Azure platform. You can choose deployment in process. You can see the resource that's coming up. You can refresh this page, and then you'll see the security group has been created. You can keep refreshing it. Diagnostic has been created. Your public IP address has been created. The last thing is the actual VM. So we'll wait for that to come up. There you go. Network interfaces have been created. And again, much like AWS, on the actual Azure page, let me go back here. We do have, a link to our support page that talks about the same process that I'm going through. So you can have all these options. You can go to the support article if you want sort of a documented guide that goes through the same experience I'm going through right now. So let's see, where's my all right, the virtual machine has been created. Let's take a look at it. We have an IP address, which is great. So let's copy that IP address. It's still in creating state, so let's wait for it to finish. Things are slightly slower on Azure compared to AWS, but we'll get there. Just refresh the page to make sure that still. All right, looks like it's created. So again, let's go back to my terminal. Let's hit clear here. So a fresh window. Again, SSH-I. I'm going to use my Azure key here. And again, it's this user is Ubuntu at IP address. Let's hit yes. Again, I'm logged in. You can see FileCatalyst and so on. So because since this is a BYOL, if we switch to root here, and you don't have to switch to root. I just prefer it versus typing sudo before every command. But it usually comes down to preference. So let's do service fc server status to see if it's running. It's running, so that's fine. Let's cd into /opt utex source server. Run service fc server stop. And then let's run fc. Let me just make sure all the files, nope, they don't have execute. So let's do chmod a plus x star.sh, should give them execute access. Now I can run fc server underscore console.sh. So this will run the server, and when it runs the server, it will start up the application, and this is where it prints out the request string. So again, it tells you basically take this request string and send it to your sales rep. They'll respond with a license key. So for us, let's go ahead and use our consumption-based license. So let me go and run fc_shutdown to stop it so we can apply the license. And then we'll go fcconf.conf. So again, over here, you just go ahead and enter your license key. So we'll use the insert option here. I'm going to take my license that I got. I'm going to apply the license, hit escape, close, and then now I can do fc_server_console to start up the FileCatalyst server. So now the FileCatalyst server will start up in a licensed mode. And what we can do is, you can see it's all started up. We can go back to our Azure, copy our IP, launch back our FileCatalyst server admin. Let's go to manage. Let's create a new site, and let's call this site Azure FileCatalyst BYOL. Give it that IP. Hit close again. To keep things consistent, we have used the same username and password for both AWS and Azure. So, and again, this is also part of the README file as well as documentation. So if you hit login and go back to the console, you'll see the log saying we're authenticated. So we'll just wait for this system to come up. So it comes up, and we can go to our server license, and now you'll see that we're using a consumption per gigabyte license. So again, and much like with Amazon, the same thing applies in Azure. You have to apply your enable your IP Masquerade and enter your public IP. So let's go ahead and do that. And now we have the same idea. We can now start performing transfers and so on. The last part is talking about our external file systems. So let's go ahead. To see the external file systems, you have to enable advanced view. So let me just minimize that back window. So as soon as you enable advanced view, you have the file system tab exposed to you. In the current version, we have these three file system drivers that we support. And again, to add them, you just click on one, specify your details, hit test, and it appears as a file system. If you're looking for support for the other ones that I mentioned in the PowerPoint in the webinar, you can get that from our download page, or contact one of your sales rep, and they can provide you a direct link to it. And the idea is that all you have to do is take that file and go into your install folder of FileCatalyst. You'll notice an EFS folder, so you can cd into EFS. And if you do a listing, you'll see the different drivers that we support. All you have to do is add those drivers in here. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's go cd ... Let's go fc_server_shutdown. So let's shut that down. And we want to download that file. So let's go and do wget and then http. Let's go ca1. Then it should be go into EFS. Let's go EFS files.zip. Yeah. So this won't. I can do it %20. Yeah. EFS %20 files.zip. Okay, so now I have my EFS files.zip file here. Let's do unzip If I have unzip, sudo root, so apt install unzip. Go ahead and install it quickly. Then unzip EFS. Actually, let's move this into a folder to be sure we have the files access. So mkdir and new EFS. Move EFS into new EFS. cd into new unzip EFS files.zip. Run that. Yeah. And let's go cd EFS. Let's see what's in here. There we go. So let's go ahead and cd back out. CD to EFS, and let's do a copy of star. Let's copy star from a new dot new EFS files. Star to here. Okay. So let's do copy -r new EFS files lib to here. Now we should see all the files in there, and let's go ahead and start up the FileCatalyst server again. We can use a service this time. So that's starting up. You can just log out here just so ready, and let's go status. Says it's running. So let's go back to our remote admin client and try connecting to it. Connected to it, let's go to our file systems, hit new, and now you can see all the file systems that are available to you. So again, you can go and select any one of them and enable it and connect to your preferred object storage. In the next version we're releasing, we will have this all packaged for you, so you don't have to run through this process. It's just for this version, you'd have to run through this because some of these drivers were not ready when this version was released. So now to add them in manually, and again, we can always assist with this process. Cool. So let's go back to, I think so that's it for running on AWS. We do have other clouds that you can bring your own license to. So you can take a consumption license to Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud, and any other cloud like Packet, Server Central. It doesn't matter. You can pick any cloud you wish, and our BYOL license will work on those clouds. So what are some of the use cases around using our consumption-based and our per hour-based licenses? Sometimes you may have your deployment on your cloud, whether it's AWS or Azure or any other cloud, and you have your own license or bring your own license or perpetual license. However, at specific times of the day, specific times of the week, or based on your activities or your workflows, there's a high increase in file transfer that's causing all your other file transfers to slow down. So, by spinning up a per hour instance or using a per gigabyte, you can use it for just as periodic, a short amount of time and only pay for that versus having to buy another license for that project. If you have short-term projects, if you're editing a movie or a TV show that's only going to last, X amount of weeks or months, these licenses come in really handy. So in terms of, tying into a capex model, it's an OPEX license. If you're developing a SaaS or PaaS solutions, which rely on file transfer and the way you bill out your transfers, so the way you bill out your service to your customers is based on usage or is based on time. These licenses come in really handy because you can, you understand how much it's going to cost you for FileCatalyst. You know how much your services are going to cost. You add a full package, and this way you can, what piece of the pie is going to who, and it allows you to sort of manage that. You're not, sort of investing into software licenses that you may not know whether it's going to work or not. If you have data migration or data backup, or if you're looking at syncing your various cloud servers, and this synchronization happens, once every week, once every month. Again, buying into a license for running the services that only happen periodically, can be a huge cost. But using our per hour or per gigabyte license, you can now spin up these instances, apply the licenses, and you're only paying for what you use. Cool. Any questions, comments? Just check out questions. Yeah, so we have a question here. So the question's around can FileCatalyst work behind a load balancer and so on? Absolutely. So if you're looking at AWS, if you're looking at auto scaling and building out, sort of your services on whether it's AWS or Azure, you can definitely put a load balancer. You can have FileCatalyst authenticate against a third-party database like an Amazon RDS or MySQL that's running, externally. So this way you can have multiple servers authenticate against the same authentication service. You can also use OpenLDAP or Active Directory. It doesn't matter. And in terms of a load balancer, you can use any load balancer that supports UDP. You can also use interesting tools that Amazon has, and I'm sure Azure has the same thing, whereby you can do DNS. A DNS sort of round robin DNS load balancing, whereby based on the DNS you hit, it determines which server the request should go to. Cool. Yeah, and looks like there's another question about our per gigabyte license. So the cool thing about the question is, can the per gigabyte license be used on only one server or multiple servers? So that's the cool thing about the per gigabyte license, is that it can actually be used on as many servers as you wish. It's the same license that can be applied to as many different servers as you wish. And the idea behind it is you're only paying for data moved, meaning that you can deploy multiple servers across multiple different locations. And what happens is we aggregate that all the data to within one account. So you're only paying based on the total usage versus having to buy multiple licenses for different server locations. Cool. So doesn't look like we're having any more questions coming in. So once again, thank you very much. If you do have questions later on, feel free to contact us. You can email us at info@filecatalyst.com, or you can go to our website and you have different options to request a trial and so on. Can fill in any of those forms, and someone from our team will get back to you based on your request and assist you along the way. Cool. Thank you very much.